Hey everybody, welcome to the FreeMind Podcast, the realest thing on the internet. Remember, there are no scripts, there is no agenda. Today we have Clifford Starks of Starks Transformational Coaching and former UFC fighter. Let's jump right in and check out Cliff's story.
Yeah, so I am Clifford Starks. I was Starks Enterprises is the name of the business. It was technically founded in 2012, but I am just as insane. So technically I was founded April 25th, 1981.
Yes, there we go.
I am a constantly growing entity. I really enjoy the journey. And I'll tell you, I love how you talk about having fun and also about being serious. Because just like a brain surgeon has to be a brain surgeon in that time, they can also be a father or a mother. They can be a clown for all I care. They can be whatever they choose to be. And life is about being what you need to be in the moment that you need to be in.
Absolutely. I couldn't have said it better. Thank you, Clifford. So tell me a little bit about your current business and what it has evolved into. And then after we talk about what it has evolved into, we're going to go backwards and find out how we got there.
Yeah. So I'm one of those people who tries to eat the elephant whole every single time. I always choke up on my own stuff. And then I end up figuring out how to eat it one bite size at a time because it's always harder when you first start it. Now my business, it's about helping people take their dreams and build it into something they didn't even know was possible. Sometimes people leave their dreams under the bed, under the pillow, and they figure if I don't look at the dream long enough, I won't have to think about it. And if I don't think about it, I'll just live life and my dream will take a back burner. And when it's time to pull it out, then I'll pull it out. And unfortunately, a lot of people pull it out on their hospice bed when they say, oh, crap, I forgot about that thing that I was looking to accomplish, that thing that I was looking to do. I help people see their dream front and center because I know when they see it, they'll act on it and they'll be the person that they need to be. And I challenge people to look at their dream and challenge to even make their dream bigger than they had originally thought it was going to be.
Walk me through when you're starting from your discovery meeting. What are some of the tactics that you have to do? I imagine obviously everything you do is customized. I mean, you obviously might be pricing for here's my hourly or my session price, but at the end of the day, your approach is custom to every single person. Walk me through the complications of that when you're running a business with such customization.
Yeah. So what's interesting, the mind generalizes, which is quite fascinating. And you have to figure out, okay, what's the thing that your people want? How can you provide it unlike anybody else? And so most people say, oh, well, you're not Tony Robbins, so you can't be very general. Well, you can be whoever the F you want to be, if you want to be it. Like you just learn a lesson and go, do I like this lesson or do I not like this lesson? For me, I am a coach who is an inner warrior coach. I bring out people's inner warrior. And the reason I'm able to do that, I know how to bring my inner warrior out. I stepped inside a UFC cage. I've stepped inside Bellator. I've done those things. And I've gone with it's me versus me at the end of the day. Every time you're going to figure out something about yourself. And sometimes we get so used to acting, we don't even ask ourselves, why am I doing the action that I'm doing? Who am I being? Who am I becoming? Who do I want to become? And so when I go, okay, I'm an inner warrior, I help you turn pressure into performance, or I help you turn pressure into fuel. And this is the result when you do that. When you're in a place where you're like, nothing can stop me, I can become whatever I need to become. Here's the reality that I'm looking for. People are going to raise their hand to that. And then I even went a little bit deeper and said, oh, I want to work with athlete-owned businesses. This is relatively new for me. I want to work with athlete-owned businesses, and you can be it's an athlete in Pee-wee, high school, college, professional. I just want to know there's an athlete in you somewhere. even if you just thought, well, at one time I thought I wanted to be an athlete, that's something. That's a start. So I use that because I need something, just like a vegetarian can openly say, I'm a vegetarian. And a person who eats both can say, I eat both. I don't know if we have a name for that because most people do that. So, but you can find a name for anything. You're
A regular.
yeah, you're carnivorous for all you want. So you can find something, and then it's having the courage to say, these are the people that I want to serve.
So when you went out, I mean, let's actually look before we go to in the current part. What industries are you currently working in with those athlete-driven things? And background for me, I'm a former wrestler, football player, rugby guy. So
Nice.
I almost got in the UFC ring in Philadelphia. Now in Philadelphia, you know how Philadelphia's UFC cage fighting area is in the South Jersey area.
Yeah,
And,
absolutely.
I went out to, I'm sober now, but I used to sold beer for a living, and I was out in the bars all the time. And I met tons of guys that were in that industry. And as soon as they saw me, they started talking, and they're like, "Oh, you're a wrestler?" They're like, "I wish I could just do wrestling." They were trying to tell me that just with the wrestling skills, it would have put me ahead of a lot of people, but I couldn't get through the mental part because, like, in my mind, I was on a D1 track and all this other stuff, and I got into college, I did D1 college, but then I burned out. We had this whole kind of crazy little thing going on. And then I got a job and started working full time. And I always look back and being like, man, if I got in that ring one time, I was like, just to see it. Because all those guys were like, they were saying to me, man, with your ground game, they were like, it wouldn't even matter. And I was like, it'd be fun. But you know, maybe you and I can get together sometime and mess around.
Absolutely. No, we'd have a lot of fun with it. Yeah. Like, if you're ever in Arizona, let me know. When it comes to industry, I'm actually not industry specific. I'm people specific.
Nice. I like that.
So yeah, so I'm looking at the psychographic, because the psychographic's the thing that runs everything anyway.
Yep.
Now people go like, oh, well, you're not in my industry, or you're not this, or you're not that. That's a mechanical thing. That's almost like saying like, oh, well, I can't use a fork for this, or I can't use a spoon for that. You can use whatever you want to use. Now, is it the most efficient? If you're using a fork for cereal and for soup, and you're using a spoon to eat steak, well, that's going to be quite kind of difficult. But depending on the mechanics, you can still use it if you're intentional with it. Mm-hmm. And so since I go after the psychographic, I want to know who the intentional one is. Because if you're intentional, you can make anything work. Now, I wouldn't choose that. I want to make it as easy and flowy as possible. But intention is the start of all things.
It couldn't have been said any better. And one of those things is with that intention, I'm going to go out on a limb and say one of the times I find that I connect in a completely different fashion with former athletes. And like you said, whether they were D1, because I was not a good athlete. I was not actively recruited for D1. I say that just to give you context. But I worked myself in selling myself to get to college. So it wasn't one of those things where, I had D1s or D2s and D3s recruiting me, but I wanted D1, but not for anything other than just, in my mind, it was just I wanted to go there. But backtrack to where we are with things. In the aspect of looking at just athletes, I like your philosophy because I have the same philosophy in business. It doesn't matter if you're raising money or selling $500 worth of products or if you're selling $500 million worth of products. The same grit, the same determination of starting from scratch, looking at a blank wall and seeing the vision, that's the mechanics that I love, that's what you choose as who you want to work with, is somebody that understands that concept and understands that you got to get up off the couch or whatever situation you're in and roll up your sleeves and get it done. And that's what it is with, like you said. And I like that the varying degrees is important because one of the things I try to make sure everybody understands in here is we're not sitting here. I'm interviewing people like yourself, former UFC, about big deal. No, I mean that in a good way, but congratulations, deal. But at the same time, also, I mean it in big deal. We're human beings, and you have had the same pains and you've had the same emotional situations. You've had your head in your hands and tears coming down and blood off your face. And just like everybody else has, that single mom that's working every day at the grocery store.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying anybody's lives are better. I just want to I'm just trying to bring a common connection that we can all realize that we're in this life together in this crazy ass world that we're in.
100%. One, even going, I wasn't a great D1 athlete. We are what we choose to be. And
I probably should have thought about trying to apply myself more.
yeah. Like I had one kid. He was the slowest runner. I know he had something mentally different about him. I don't remember what it was, but there was something mentally different. And he was not the most athletically gifted. I remember him though. I remember how hard he worked. I remember how he put in the reps. I also remember people teasing him. I remember him getting locked in a locker room. I remember standing up for this kid and saying, why are you doing this? Come on, Cliff, you know it's funny. No, he's crying in the locker. Not to attack them. It's just to say, let's see each other. That's all. Just see him. He comes out and I'm inspired by him because he keeps giving his best. That's the most important thing, is that we give our best. That's all we got. And it's up to a person to choose whether that's the person or not. But find the person you want to be inspired by. And I was like, oh, that's why I get along with everybody. I love me. I really love me. And I'm loving myself more and more every single day. Because the more I love me, the more I have the empathy, the compassion, and the space to love others.
It's really powerful. It really is. And that's, at the end of the day, that's a lot of times I talk on here about my own personal journey, and it's I'm in a journey of realizing how many years I didn't like myself at all. And I was blinded by so many things that I was using as distractions to fill a void, until I was able to come to a lot of realizations I've talked about in other episodes, where I finally came to a realization that I'm enough, and I just need to stop being a chameleon for everybody. And that's what propelled this podcast and this theme and this mission, is to go out there and try to tell these stories and tell your story. And if I can help 5 people to get up and make their own business, or apply for that job that they kept passing over because they didn't think they had enough for it, I want people to get up and shoot their shot, take their hits, and go move forward and start loving life. Because there's too much out there that's tearing us down.
Yep. And it's interesting. My mind works in yes and or maybe but.
So does mine. You're good.
Yeah. So everything is, there's a truth to everything, right? And one thing that I had to learn, it was really interesting, was if people see the black and white, I like to show them the gray. And when people saw the gray, I'd like to show them the black and white. This is what I needed to learn. If a person wants to see black and white, they're going to see black and white. It's not my place to show them the gray unless they want to see the gray. Like, all right. And the same is true for if they see the gray and they want to see the gray and they don't want to see the black and white. It's not my place.
Yeah.
And I started learning, and it was freeing. Give people what they want. That's it. And the world will continue to show them what they want. Like, that's just what it's going to do. Like, if that's what they want to see, that's what they want to see. It's not my place to tell them, hey, there's this cool thing over here. Like, nope. If they don't want to see that, they're not going to see it.
You know what I call? Yeah, exactly. I call the gray area context.
Yeah.
Because if somebody looks at everything black and white, you're not giving yourself context, like you just said, because every experience is different. And one thing somebody told me the other day, it was or I might have heard it on something, I don't remember. It was about a butcher shop. It was talking about a butcher shop. And when you're at the butcher shop and the butcher's on the other side and the meat's all in the middle, and you're trying to tell him which slice you want and which piece you want, but he can't find it because his left is your right and your right is his left. And until that butcher comes around the back or around the front and stands next to you, side by side with you from the same perspective, then he can successfully achieve grabbing the piece of meat that you want. And that right there is all it is. That's all it comes down to, is pausing before you react and say, I don't know which one you want, so go away. Just walk around the counter and see it from their side.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. That's super cool. And as I'm going through it, I just say life is life.
Yep.
So it's whatever you're gonna choose to make it. And there's one, I think it was Ray Higdon. He says you're either you have a cup of hot coffee or you have a cup of water. And when someone bumps you, if it's hot coffee, you're all mad and you're pissed. And if it's water, you're like laughing about it and it's fun. And I tell people, choose the cup you want. If you want to be pissed, be pissed. Sometimes it feels comfortable to be pissed. Sometimes people like it, depending on the situation. Like, be as mad as you want to be, or be as happy as you want to be. Just be what you want to be. It's your choice.
I had a drug and alcohol counselor years ago tell me that hatred and jealousy and all those things you feel in comparison against other people, it's just the equivalent of drinking poison. And it's like you want to hurt them, but really you're just the one drinking the poison. Because at the end of the day, you don't give a shit about you. Like, you don't like them for that reason. Like, there's a reason you don't like them, and why are you wasting your life and your minutes thinking about them or talking about them? You're just poisoning yourself.
Yeah. I sometimes, because I know our brains work so well in story and metaphor. So sometimes I'll tell people, do you ever go driving and just look through the rearview mirror the entire time? That would be stupid. Well, that's what you're doing right now.
That's really good, man. Oh, I love that one.
Yeah,
I love that one. Dude, walk me through. Let's go back in time a little bit. I love that you caught on and you said this business started unofficially. Walk me through what you were doing in your life at that time where this started to click and that light bulb started to go, where even though you were on the path you were on for a long time, this was still living inside of you.
Yeah. It's interesting. So it's always clicking and it's always freeing and refreeing levels of freedom. My biological dad left when I was 4. And I remember he was going to leave because I was really good at reading energy. So I knew he wasn't coming back. When Mom said he was going to come back, I knew different. And I was right. And then when I was 5, my grandfather passed away. Now, when he passed away, I had never felt so locked up before. I was literally it was a really, really frozen moment for me because I realized my mortality. I realized one day I was going to be in the coffin. And in that process, I didn't know it at the time, but I coached myself and I go, if I'm going to die, I'm going to live as much life as I can. That's what I focused on. Then my mom remarried when I was 6. Now, this all didn't happen all at once because I started calling him dad at 9. And I started calling him dad at 9 because I kind of felt like, okay, eventually he's going to leave because that's what people do. Is they come into your life and then they leave. And he stayed. And he's been with me to this day. But my belief system was people who are supposed to be there can leave with no reason. No, they can just leave your life. People who don't have to be there, they don't have a choice to be there, they can stay. And we're all going to die. So make the most out of life that you can. And that's what I focused on doing, was just making the most out of my life.
I like that. And I want to go with, I want to talk to you about something, I guess I haven't talked about on this since you just brought that up. Talk to me a little bit about, I'm adopted. I know nothing about my family other than my parents were, I guess, they're 15 or 16 years old when they had me, my biological parents. And then I was adopted the day that I was born with my parents. So I didn't have a long transition or anything like that. And then started to be around, like, my mom told me, she always told me, like, you know, that I was adopted, but it was about the same age you're talking about when he became your father. That's when I found out. Walk me through from your end, what those dynamics were, receiving him, but also embracing him in the best way possible. And then also, I mean, I'll be honest with you and I'll share mine. Like, do you have ambitions of finding? Have you ever looked out? Have you reached out, or are you still in the philosophy of what happened and that door is closed?
He called me on my 39th birthday to wish me happy birthday.
Oh.
So from 4 to 39. Yeah.
Do you think it was because you were known and stuff like that and you were searchable online, or what do you think?
I know that helped. I had a family member who actually got reconnected to him. So Cliff was his name and Gary is his brother. I don't exactly know Gary's story, but Gary got adopted.
Hmm.
And so Gary ended up reconnecting with Cliff.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And Gary was the one who encouraged Cliff to reach out.
Well, then that's awesome.
Yeah.
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 And,
So
and have you guys been able to maintain since then, or was it kind of like a awkward thing and it's like, what? Yeah.
it wasn't awkward to me. I can't speak for him, but
Right.
I will say this. I was there for him. I felt he needed to get stuff off of his chest, and I was there. What was interesting, I had prepared myself to be the person that he would need, which is kind of interesting. It was more I was preparing myself to be the best I could for me, because just like telling people it's like you're drinking your own poison, easier said than done.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's the same thing as like, hey, just eat right and exercise. That's all you need to do. Like, oh crap, okay. It's easier said than done because we're emotional. You know, we are emotional beings. So in being an emotional being, you become what you practice. You become what you practice consistently. So I focus on doing the best practices that I can as I go through the journey. And I wanted to practice not holding on to stuff that I didn't even know if I was consciously holding on to, if that even makes sense.
No, actually, to be honest with you, it 100% does. And until like, there's a lot of times of evolutions in my own life, and I'm in a state of I don't know if it's that approaching 40 or whatever it is state, but I'm really on a backwards, not in the sense that we're talking about like driving with the rear view mirror. I love that phrase.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I am doing a lot of reflection, and my reflection is in a sense of, here's what I've done for 20 years. I don't have to show the receipts anymore. Like, I have, my whole life is online. Like, and it's like everybody can look me up and find out what I've done, good, bad, and ugly.
Yeah.
And there's a freeing feeling that I'm looking forward to this year of that, where it's like, yeah, I can achieve new things, but I need to stop trying to prove myself of the things I've achieved.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I can focus 100% on the new achievements. And that's where I'm transitioning this year.
Yeah. Like, even because you set up some context with this space that we have right now. I'll give you an example just to let you into my mind even more. I'm here for you and your audience. And so, for instance, I don't want Cliff to feel any ill will towards anything. I don't want Gary to feel any ill will towards anything. And everything I'm coming from is through my perspective, right? Like, that's all I got is my perspective. And I often say love and light, because I love and light. I want to give love and light to others. And even as I'm talking to you about this, there's an uncomfortable feeling to it. And I let people know this to say it's easy to act on the thing we're supposed to act on. You know, even when I'm getting ready to fight inside a UFC or a Bellator cage, it's uncomfortable. I'm getting my hands taped up. I'm getting ready to go in front of a live audience of people, and I'm getting ready to feel some sort of way. And it's like, okay, is the preparation there? Are the things there? Are the things that I need there for me to be what I need to be? I've realized this is a game of leadership at the end of the day. And the better you are as a leader, the more life works for you, the better you are at getting the results that you're looking to get. And on this podcast, I love the freedom behind it and the speaking behind it, because it's like, hey, you're free to be who you need to be. And I bring this up because I have people who they wait to share their stories. because they're like, oh, well, I'll do it when this happens. Or I'll do it when that happens over there. Instead of saying, okay, if it were to happen, how would I make it happen?
So where you're going with that is something that there's a place where a lot of people would be surprised that to watch a UFC fighter have this conversation. And one of the things that I really love, and for your context, we've never met, and we're only two heads on a screen. I'm 6'3", almost 300 pounds. I'm not athletic anymore, but I was at one. So I'm built proportionally, let's say. What I'm trying to say is when I walk into places, I'm not like that at all, but people get a wrong impression of me. I have tattoos on my legs and my arms, things like that. And they don't think they're going to have a heady conversation with me like they do. And I want to compliment you and commend you because there's a lot of people that don't have the courage to break the persona and be real.
Yeah. It's so true. Like I was talking with one of my friends and I go, I take the fucking mask off. He goes, you know why this conversation's so good? Because I'm taking the mask off and just putting it down. And what was super interesting, one of my coaches, she goes, instead of mask, what if you put on different types of shoes for different scenarios? I'm like, oh, I like that. Different types of shoes for different scenarios. Because the mask is always off. Like I'm authentically me. And sometimes people go, well, what does that mean? Mm-hmm. Well, I'm authentic to the level that provides value to a person. Like, I'm not going to be like, hey, this is me crapping on the toilet. Does everyone want to see this? Like, it's not probably going to add value to any of the people anywhere. Like, man, my life is better now that I saw that. So ultimately, I want to be extremely authentic. And what I realized, like, as a leader, cultures and containers. Everything comes down to cultures and containers. And when I realized that, I was like, oh, this game can be really, really fun. We do it right. Because it can also really, really suck if we're not doing it right. So I got really, really good. And I'm continually getting good and getting better at saying, okay, what's the container I want to create? And what's the container I want to be in? And what's the culture I want to create? And what's the culture I want to be in? And when I answer those questions, life starts working for me. And the truth is, life's always working for us if we're choosing to look at how it's working.
Recently, I look at like the terms authenticity and genuine and real and all that stuff. And you and I, we've been in the corporate world. You've been in the sponsorship and advertising space. I was in that in the beer world with Miller Coors, all that stuff. And this is not a knock on these specific brands that I brought up. This is just in general as a society. Pre-COVID, all right, before we all went home and before we all began to self-reflect and have to look in the mirror all day long, don't you remember how having this conversation right now and using the words genuine, authentic, and things like that, but it actually means it, versus right before COVID, those years leading up to COVID, remember all the conferences and all the different things, and it was like authenticity, genuineness, and it was like and it's like it was so manufactured, and then we thought that was real. Hey, what's up, man?
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
What's your name? Ivan, nice.
It's Tyson, and
Tyson, nice.
He literally just gave the laptop a hug.
Cliff, I got 6 kids, 10 to 18, man. I know.
Yeah. He's a really loving kid. Of course, when enough people say something and enough people are behind it, everyone's going to say the same thing because that's what you're supposed to do. I didn't realize. I'm like, holy crap, I am different. I didn't even know I was different. But the truth is we all are. That's the funny thing. Like the irony of it all is, oh no, we are all different. Every single one of us.
We only had to go to our separate silos for 2 years or 3 years to figure it out. You know, to have that extreme of a societal shift to realize we're all unique. Nobody's special because we're all special.
Yes. So I'm going through it. And I'm like, that's pretty cool. So what do we do when we do something? Like I did the same thing as an entrepreneur. I didn't know, oh, you just have to learn to be more Cliff. Like, that was it. Like, that's all I needed to do. But I'm like, oh, okay, well, I need this strategy over here and this tactic over here, and I need to start piecemealing this Frankenstein together. Okay.
Manufacture yourself when you already exist.
Yeah.
Like,
So I'm like, all right.
So crazy.
You push the button, like, all right, is that going to work? Oh, it didn't work at all. It blew up in my face.
We knew we were built naturally for this, and we've only done is fight it and recreate it.
Yeah. So, all right, let me try the strategy and the tactic again. Crap, it worked even worse this time. Holy crap, son of a. And then when I got into a space of just being me, like, when I'm me, the world works for me. When I'm not me, it just gets hard. So education and fun, you're supposed to have both. Like, I want a brain surgeon, right? We were talking about the brain surgeon. I want someone who's super, super passionate, who's super, super driven, who enjoys it, who loves it, who wants to figure out, oh, we can do this better and this better and this better. And not only just does it, actually does it. Because if you're thinking about it's one thing. But if you're acting on it, that's another thing altogether. I'm listening to one of my mentors, Jeff, and he talks about acting energy, emotional energy, and thinking energy. And so with those three things, he says acting energy is the most powerful energy. And emotional energy is the second most powerful energy. And thinking energy is the third most powerful energy. Literally, now even my son is talking about these energies. So I got to talk to him about that later on.
That's already started.
Yeah. It's part of the game. And so we go through it, and it's like, okay, what energy are you using? And how are you using the energy? And the cool thing, because my mind, again, it's very divergent. Yes and or no, maybe but. Because sometimes the thinking energy is the more powerful energy. Sometimes the emotional energy is the most powerful energy. You ever get emotional and you just do the thing that you do because you're emotional about doing it?
Every
and
day.
Sometimes the acting energy, because you can act very incorrectly. Jeff talks about practice makes permanent. So if you're making permanent practice, you better figure out what you're practicing and how you're practicing it. And if that's what you want it to be permanently. Because if you permanently put the wrong foundation down, you're like, ooh, that sucks.
Got a crooked house that's going to blow over. You know?
Yeah.
That's awesome. So take me through, when you go from a UFC fighter, all right, that career, you then have your mindset into entrepreneurialism, and you're taking that idea from the early 80s that you've been it's just been burning in you.
Yeah.
What was it like? What was that defining moment for you when you said, I'm going for it?
Okay, so that's a great question.
Or what you're saying when you took
let's have some fun. Let's have some fun. All right. I'm freaking, like, I'm terrified. I'll even go back even a little bit further. I'm not training properly. Something's off with my training. I'm getting lazier. And I'm like, okay, why am I getting lazier? Like, what's going on? Why am I being this way? And I'm getting ready for my fight, and I'm terrified. Like, back to that 5-year-old kid seeing his grandfather in the coffin again, terrified. Am I allowed to cuss?
Yep.
Okay. And so in my head, I'm like, what the fuck? Like, that's not good. Why am I so terrified? So I'm trying to figure out, like, why am I so terrified by this whole thing? And I'm walking towards it. And, like, I could see in my coach's eyes that he could see it. Like, something's off with Cliff. Like, this isn't Cliff. So I'm like, I'm going to die. So I'm walking towards the cage.
You forgot to paint that scene. You're walking up to the cage at this point.
Oh, yeah.
The locker room.
It's warming up. My warm-up was weird. Like, everything, I'm like, oh, I'm walking to the cage, knowing that my life is about to end. And they close the cage door. And I'm like, fuck, I'm a dad now. That's what it was. Like, I caught it when the cage door closed. It's because I had my son. And my son was about a year now. So most people would say, like, well, why did it take you a year to figure that out? Because I'm going through my preparation. I got to sign a contract. I got to go through the preparation. So the cage door closed, and instantly I realized what the problem is. And here's what made it even worse. I lost that fight by a decision. I didn't even get knocked out.
Oh, wow.
But I was this off, and I could feel it. I was this off. And I'm looking, I go, wow, our habits are a hell of a thing. Our habits can keep us safe. They can keep us alive. They can keep us. I'm walking towards danger. And my heart's not in it. But my habits were. My habits literally saved me that night. Like, they saved me. And I almost knocked him out. In the second round, I almost knocked him out. I'm like, that is interesting. I'm going against another killer. And I had foundated my habits so much that even when my heart's not in it, I'm still dangerous. And so I left that scene, and my entrepreneurial journey was not about impact, it was about getting enough money for my family. That was it. I was like, I heard this entrepreneur thing. It can make you a lot of money, and it can allow you to take care of your family. So, but the impact driver in me is always there. People don't let their dreams die because they're doing it intentionally. They're doing it because it's what they know. So I was going to go create my impact after I got my money. I was going to get my money and then create my impact because I thought they were separate. Didn't think they were the same thing. And so I go, oh, I'm going to go create this money, take care of my family, and then I'm going to go influence 1 billion lives. And so as I went through that process, just like me, eating a whole effing elephant, started choking on myself, gasping for air, and this crap is way harder than I thought it was. And there were little things that would show up. Like, I'm a person of integrity. And I don't mean it as like just this word, I have integrity. I mean it as in, even when I see something out of integrity that will get me a result, I don't care. I'm going to do it the integrous way. Why? Because that's the way I'm going to do it. And so I'm doing Amazon FBA, and there's things that I could have sold on Amazon. Like, I know I could have sold them, but I wouldn't sell the damn things.
I did that during COVID, man. It was great.
Yeah. I was like, I can't sell this stuff. Like, this is junk. This is crap. This doesn't serve anyone.
What kind of stuff are you selling?
So I was selling toys. I was selling Funko Pops.
Overstock Targets and still, yeah.
Okay. You were way smarter than me at it because I was the beginner in the game. And what I would do, so smart, by the way, you're a genius, because this is what I would do. I found a wholesaler.
Yep.
I ended up getting it on wholesale prices, and my stuff didn't come until later because they had to take care of Target and Walmart and all these other people. And then my stuff would come way, way later. And then I'd go sell it. And then by then, like, I was selling to the lowest bidders. So the wave would kind of go like that. And I'd be all anxious and excited, like, oh, I can't wait to get my stuff. And then
mask on.
Yeah. And then I'm like, damn, that sucked. But there was one guy, he was genius about it. He was on Twitter specifically. And so he would sell it when people were hot and emotional about it. And he wouldn't even have the product yet.
Right. Yep.
but they buy it and then they'd wait to get the product. I wasn't that person. I didn't know how to do that. So I'm just like, wow, that sucks. Like I'm always riding the bottom of the wave. I'm not riding the top of the wave. I'm riding the bottom of the wave. That sucks. But one thing, like there were candies that I knew I could have sold, and I wouldn't sell that because I knew that was junk for the society. I wouldn't sell cheap things that would just break really easy, like because it just. And there were trends that I could see that I could do well in that I wouldn't even touch, and I didn't even know this about me at the time. Like I just knew I wouldn't touch them. I knew I only wanted to.
You were actually a filter. You were filtering and qualifying in real time in the moment. Yeah, nice.
Yeah. Like I'm always looking out for people. I say there is no right or wrong or good or bad. There just is. It's perspective.
Yep.
There are people who are intentionally out for themselves, and they do not care about you. Now that doesn't mean they can't help you. It just means they don't care. Then there are people who care about you, and they care about you more than you care about yourself. But that doesn't necessarily mean they can help you either.
Right.
That just means they care about you. And so as I went through my journey, I really, really care about people. And I really, really care about me. Because it goes both ways. And so I became more and more aligned on understanding like, oh crap, there's win-wins everywhere. You just have to ask the right questions. If you ask the right questions, you get the right wins. You get the right wins, everybody wins, and they actually can win even more. So I started understanding business more and more. And I started understanding like, wait a minute. We buy what we value. Now, I didn't come up with this all on my own. Dan Kennedy, Russell Brunson, Alex Ramosi, Myron Golden, my personal mentors, Jeff Fagan, Lauren Archibek, Diana Hooker, I call her Sunshine. But I started finding these people and seeing like, oh, they go hand in hand. I go, money and impact go hand in hand. I've been looking at this wrong. And then I started looking at what my conditioning was. Money doesn't grow on trees. You're going to have to work a lot of hours. It's not going to be so easy. And I started realizing, oh, there's always levels of conditioning. Even when you get past one, it doesn't mean you're past the other level. There's always another level of conditioning. And it's up to us to ask ourselves, do we want to go to the next level? Or do we want to stay where we're at? And are we staying there intentionally? And so since we're driven by pain and pleasure, I got really, really good at understanding where people were and why they either did have what they want or didn't have what they want. I think both sides are important. You know, we talk about how to be successful in 101 ways. Like, well, I want to know how to not be successful in 101 ways too. Like,
let's start with one. Let's start with one, and then we'll talk about that.
Yeah. Like, I want to know all of the pieces. And then I want to go act on the pieces. Because we don't know until we actually act on the thing. And so as I started going through it, I'm like, oh, crap. Business is life and life is business. They're the same exact thing. If you know how to create a system, if you know how to put things in place for people who would want value in it, that's all life is, relationships. How do I have a healthy relationship? Well, there has to be some sort of system in place. No, I don't want to systematize my life. Okay, you can choose not to do that. But that's the same thing as, all right, how about you put bad gas in your car and try and go from Arizona to California? Why wouldn't you do that? Well, because I want to get to California in an effective time. Well, it took a system for that to happen. And we get convoluted into one thing's right and one thing's wrong. So put the right gas in your car and have a flat tire. You can have obstacles. You can have all sorts of problems. The truth is, you don't really actually want those problems. You can adjust to the problem. But how come you want the problems that you have versus the problems that you don't? Maybe it's because you were conditioned to be that way.
I work with a company called Spot On. They're a payment processing and marketing software solutions, entire business solutions company based out of California area. And there's a VP there and a manager there, Doug Hines and Jordan Schreider. I've been working in 20 years. I've been working in sales and marketing, and only until I started in the beginning of January working with them, and they've completely indirectly, and I'm sure when they listen to this, they'll be surprised, have just changed my complete focus. And it's everything you're talking about in systems. And I was solopreneur. All right. I bring 1099 people in that I trust for projects so we can bang them out quickly and get it done. There's not ramp up or anything like that. It's like I do turnkey projects with seasoned professionals. That's kind of how I tell people. So it's quick and fast. And I mean, we don't have to be taught how to nail the board down. But long story short is, what I didn't realize until I started working with Spot On and Doug and Jordan was I didn't have the systems in place. And I wasn't, when it came to sales and learning the customer, I did not have, I love talking to people. I do it all day long. I'm a social butterfly. I'll work the room. I don't care. But until they got to the point where they started to teach me about discovery and how important that discovery is, and as the determination of the rest of the sale. Like if you don't activate that discovery meeting successfully, you're not going to make that sale because you don't know what they need.
Yeah.
And if you're just going in, like a lot of times, and this isn't a bash on the beer industry, but a lot of times because of franchise laws, as a sales rep where I was on the street and a manager, you're the person, there's no competition in the sense of the brand because everybody has to buy from one distributor and that's how it works. So when you're in a sales rep, there's not a whole lot of creativity when you're selling. It's really, here's the hottest brand, put it on the shelf, move here. And there's programming and creativity. But at the end of the day, it's a square peg, round hole, or not square peg, round hole, square peg, square hole, that kind of thing. But with like business solutions, like I'm talking about with technology and what you're talking about with mental health and coaching and leadership, that customization, like we talked about in the beginning of the conversation, it is only successful and can only be productive when there's a connection in the beginning through that discovery to find out what it is for you, though. You need to find out what those clients need to grow.
Yeah. 100%. And one, I want to say thank you for sharing that, just because we're always doing the best that we can until we see something different.
There you go. Yep.
Yeah. I was like, holy crap, everyone's doing the best that they can until they see something different. And me, like, I want to influence 1 billion lives. And I had no idea that. Oh, okay. Actually, yeah, so I got into business, but I still knew I wanted to influence 1 billion lives before I even got into business.
Nice.
My crazy ass, because I'll also say what it is that I want, because if you don't say it, and what's crazy, like,
I call my shot.
Yeah, people say talk is cheap, and I say only if you make it cheap. Like, it's not cheap if you don't make it cheap. If there's a person who always does the thing that they say they're going to do, that's not very cheap. Like, you're like, they're probably going to do this.
There's that old, what's that old, my dad used to tell me all the time, that old Gretzky quote. What is it? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take or something like that?
Yes. And I'm looking and I'm like, why would I? Because sometimes I'll say something and I'll be like, why would I say that? Like, because it's always been like, I didn't realize how hard it was going to be, right? So I go into it. I'm like, holy crap, this is really hard. Like, this is not easy at all. But once I say something, I'm stuck on it. I'm going to figure it out. And as I'm going through my process, as I started working with people, I'm like, oh, wow, they're influencing me as much as I'm influencing them. So it goes both ways. So I'm going to be influenced 1 billion times. So I'm going to be 1 billion times the leader that people needed me to be. They're making me become the person that I need to become for the society. And oftentimes people say, we need leaders that are like this and like this. And this isn't to attack anybody, but you're the leader. You're the leader. You've always been the leader. You just forgot it. Because, well, no, they're influencing this many people. Yeah, but if you're sitting there pointing at them, why not point at you?
And not to mention today, how much of that is domestic and how much of that are bots and all this other, there's so many other contextual variables to that valuation.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not fair. It's not fair for anyone to look at anybody's metrics and compare themselves. It's apples to bowling balls.
Yet as human beings, and it's the hardest thing to do. And what was so funny, you're 6'3", 300 pounds. And I remember hearing, don't judge a book by its cover. And in my head, I'm like, well, that's effing impossible. They're like, the one thing I know for sure is people are going to do that. That's what I know for sure. So
taxes and judgment. That's what we can do.
I'm like, so for them to say that is just like, are we serious now? Like, are we really saying this? Yeah, we are really saying this. And so I started seeing like, oh, wow. We really are trying the best that we can, even with the fat shaming era, because there was an era of that. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, wow, they're both arguing opposite points. They're not even having the same argument. Like, no, this is a P, brother. No, this is a B. I can see it. Like, yeah, you both can see the P and the B clearly. Like, you have both stated that.
I have a teacher, and I won't hold you up because I'll let you go here in a minute. But I want to tell you first off, this is not the last conversation you and I are having. In fact, everything you're talking about, there's another guest that I went to high school with. Her name, I'll send a message. Amy Jones Satram. She's a runs a leadership company. But she was, I believe, in swimming. But her biggest thing too, or not biggest thing, but what she's doing now, but back a while back, after high school and such, was her growth in the military. So she rose to huge ranks and was one of the top females that advanced in the military. I'm having another episode with her, a one-on-one, but I'm going to tell her, and I'm going to call it right now. I'm going to call my shot right now. Yeah. I'm going to call her out, and I'm going to say, Amy, you and Cliff and me need to have a 3-way conversation about leadership.
Nice. I love it. Awesome. Yeah, I'd love that.
So Clifford, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for the time that you spent with me. I'm so excited for where the future is going to hold and the conversations we're going to have. I can't even wait. Like, it's just so exciting. And I look forward to getting your story out there. And before we close out, any social media handles or anything like that about how people can get a hold of you?
Yeah. So I send love and light. Nate, thank you for the opportunity. I hope I was able to give people value as they go through their process. And I do have Facebook Messenger and Facebook LinkedIn. I also have a quiz. If you'd be open for me to share that, I can share all that out to you. And that way you take the quiz. Now, full transparency, it quizzes you and then it asks for your email at the end. I might change that. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to change that or not. That was me and my tech guy's decision. But what I like is I want people to come in and be connected with me because they want to be connected with me. Like, that's the game that's the game that I want to play.
Leave the email in there, because if they don't want to put their email, then it's not.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
That's not mean. It's back to that thought versus execution. If they want to do it, but they don't execute, that was test one.
I really, really like that. And so, give me your email.
Yep.
You will be thankful that you did. I'm here to support people. I'm here to love people up. And if you're not feeling it, then you can always opt out.
Excellent. Clifford, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. Everybody is going to get a lot of value out of this. Please, everybody, check Clifford out online. Connect with him. You never know. The simple conversation, who knows what the world can hold. Thank you so much, Clifford.
Thank you.
And thank you for your openness today of coming in cold and hitting record. And being a genuine human being.
I respected that. It was fun, actually. It wasn't very scary because of your energy. But yeah, I love your podcast. Keep doing what you're doing, brother.
Thanks, man. You have a great day, Clifford. I'll talk to you soon. I'll send you a message tonight.
Awesome. Take care.
Are you looking for a way to grow your business, reach new customers, and increase your sales? If so, you need the FreeMind Group. Founded in 2008 and a provider of creative and strategic solutions for the food and beverage industry. Whether you need branding, marketing, product development, or innovation, the FreeMind Group can help you achieve your goals and unleash your potential. Visit our website at thefreemindgroup.com and get a free consultation today. Thank you for listening and see you next time.